Hello and welcome to Learning Music with Pat. I decided to bring in today my latest and my newest instrument, which I had only picked up, actually sent to me within the last couple of days, and it's my necktie with a piano on it. Now, this piano plays. I want to show it to you. It's kind of like a gift, a gag gift, and I'm going to be giving it as gifts to some friends male friends of mine, because of course I don't wear neckties. But here it is. It's a necktie, and it's normal size. I'm just holding it up. I'll hold it up to the side in a minute. But it's normal size for a necktie. I think it's about 18 inches long. Now, since I don't wear neckties, I don't have any to kind of judge the spacing of it, to judge the length of it, but I think it is a pretty normal size necktie. You can see the piano keyboard, and I'm going to turn it around so you can see the back of it. The top of it is a little heavy. I mean, it's not like a normal necktie because it's got a piano on it, a playable piano. So all of the mechanism is up here. There's an on-off switch there, and there's also a place to put batteries. It lists the type of button battery that it takes. If it should run out of steam and it doesn't play anymore, you can replace the batteries and keep it going. And of course, I bought it because I wanted to see if it played. The advertisement says it plays, and yes, it does. So let me just turn the on-off switch here. That tells you that it's on. And then if I turn it to the to the front, I'm going to play each note. The black notes do not play. The white notes play. It's in the key of C, and it's perfect pitch. So and you have to play it. You have to put your hand toward the top of the key in order to be able to get it. By the way, that's perfect pitch because I checked it out with my recorders. It is perfect pitch. It's not very loud. There's no volume control on it. It does play. The black keys do not play, but the white ones do. And as long as you hit it toward the top of the key, there's like a little gray area here. You need to hit those keys right up in that gray area. If you hit, well, I guess you can do the other side. Perfect pitch. And I thought it was kind of a funny thing, and so I decided to buy a few and give them to a few male friends of mine that are musicians. But I also, of course, had to buy one for me. So that's the latest. You can't play more than one note at a time. It's not something like you could play a chord or you could play a third or something like that. So there it is, a musical necktie that actually does play. I think they'll be surprised to receive it, but there it is. I'm going to turn it off so I don't run the battery down. There's the on-off switch in the back. When you turn it on, it announces that it's on. It tells you, it plays this little thing. Now, my question is, if a company can do a little gag gift and make it perfect pitch, why can't any company that's making an instrument, even for children, be more careful and have it perfect pitch? There's no reason why they can't do it. They just don't spend the time. And then one of my bugaboos with people that make instruments, companies that make instruments, especially for children, is that they're not careful in terms of the pitch. Now, that's not always bad because I can adapt to it, but children can't adapt to it and new students can't adapt to it. So I think they have an obligation for all instruments to be pitched to A440. So there it is. I'm just going to lay it down here somewhere. And you've had a chance to see it. One thing I wanted to mention, too, when it came in a box this size. There is another keyboard necktie in this. I haven't taken it out yet, but this is the way they came. I bought several of them, and they're all folded up in a little tiny box. So I guess folding it doesn't do them any harm. although I wonder about it because they're all squeezed in there. When I took it out, it was also shrink wrapped and it was all just tightly packed, and I wondered why it would even work, but it does. So this is the size of the box that it comes in. And this one stays in here until I have a chance to take it home and take it out and kind of rescue it like I've rescued the others. I'll put them in gift bags and so forth and use them. So last time we got together, I talked to you about writing music and how it's done, and I want to continue with that today. So what I've decided to do is I'm playing a piece that I wrote this morning. And I didn't spend a whole lot of time with it, but it is a piece, and I want you to look at this side, if we can bring up that side. What I've done here is put a lot of extra markings on here because somebody asked me about the last show, well, can't you mark it by writing the notes on it and stuff like that? Yes, you can mark it up and do a lot to it, so I want to show you what I did. But this is a new song, and I'm just going to play it, and we'll start with this. No background to it. I don't have any background to it. That's the whole song, which I did this morning, and I did it in 3 parts, and that's a lot of the way that music is written. So you saw it on that side. I'm going to show you on this side how I've marked it up, how you can mark it up. So if we can just show this side, people suggested, well, you write down the notes, and you put the phrase marks in, you put the breath notes in, and all of that. And thank you. So I did some of that. I didn't do it for all of it because actually you can get so much stuff on it that it turns out that it's kind of a mess. So let's take a look at it. I wanted to make sure that I wrote the song on the basis of the notes that you're already familiar with, and that's the way I write for students anyway. I make my songs based upon what they're familiar with, and it has things in common. It has in common with other music. It has the key signature. It's in the key of G with 1 sharp. Actually, I could have written it in the key of C with no sharps and flats, but it meant that if I did that, every time I got to an F, I would have to put a little sharp on it and make it an accidental. Well, I don't have to do that if they write that F sharp in the key signature. If it's written in the key signature, then that's where it is, and it's that way until I make a change in it, and of course I never did, so it goes through the whole song. The key E signature is 3/4. That's waltz tempo. 3 beats to the measure, equivalent to 4 quarter notes. So this tells you how many beats, and this tells you the kind of notes. I started off with a 2-beat rest right here. You do have 4-beat rest, but they go on the line above it and they hang down. This goes on the B line and kind of pops up, and that's the difference between a 2-beat rest and a 4-beat rest. So anyway, you have the 2-beat rest, and then this is the 3rd beat. And then what I did was I put in phrase marks. I don't feel it's necessary to do that. Some music does. Some more complicated music they do. But a phrase is usually 4 measures, but that's not universally true. It can be more, it can be less. But this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 phrase. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Another phrase. Now, there's a difference between a phrase and a hold. For example, if you look right here, I have a hold right here. This note is connected to this note. This note is going to be 3 beats because it's a whole note, so it has the value of whatever the key signature is, which is 3. And then this note is a half note, it's 2 beats. So actually, when you play this, you're playing 5 beats. You tongue this note, and then you hold it as if it was 1 note instead of 2. The phrase mark would go right above it, but this is a hold. The difference between a phrase mark is it doesn't necessarily start on 1 note or end on 1 note, where it just kind of, it's there. On a hold, and let's look at this one here, you start it on a specific note and you end it on a specific note. You would tongue this note and you would hold it for this. So here again, you have like 5 beats. The phrase mark goes above it, although I kind of connected them here, but that was accidental. So that's the difference. You have your hold right here. That means you hold it longer. You have the RIT, which stands for retard, which means you're going to slow that measure down. But for extra markings, I marked 1, 5. As I say, I didn't go through the whole thing because it would be pot marked with so much stuff on it that it would be hard to read the music. Sometimes the measures are marked 1, 5, 9, and I could have gone through the whole thing. That is very handy if you're in an orchestra, and it's handy because if you're rehearsing and somehow you need to re-rehearse something, then a conductor will say, let's go back to number 5. That means you go to the measure marked 5 or 6 or wherever it is. And then everybody is at the same place. What we used to have to do before they used rehearsal markings is that they'd say, oh, take it like 8 measures from the beginning, and everybody's counting measures to see that they get in the right place. It's just so much easier to say, go to rehearsal marking 5, which is right here. Go to rehearsal marking 8, which is wherever it is. As I say, I didn't do it for the whole thing. So you do that. Oh, usually instead of saying going back to the rehearsal markings, they'll say, well, go to number 5 or go to number 8, whatever it is. These are the breath marks. A little breath mark here, a little breath mark here, a little breath mark here. Now, I think normally you don't need to put breath marks in. Once you get used to playing something, you know where the breath is going to be. It's going to be natural to come after a phrase or before a phrase. It's going to be natural that if you start a new phrase, it's going to be between the notes. But until you're used to it, what you have to do is just kind of know where you're going to need to breathe. And so those are the breath marks. Here's another hold. It's called a fermata, which means a hold, but that means you hold that note as long as you want to hold it. It's a little curve with a dot underneath it. You can hold it as long as you want. And let's see, all kinds of markings. I put in a little volume thing here. When you get this little marking, it may be kind of hard to see because I didn't put it in very deep color. You start soft and you get louder. As these lines separate, you get louder. And then I put a little F here. That means loud. And then over here, I put a tempo. And what that means is go back to the original speed, because right here you have a retard, so you're slowing it down. You get here, and there's a couple of little hash marks here. When you have the hash marks, it's like you just stop, just for a brief period of time, just a fraction of a second. You just make a stop, and then you begin again, because it's like starting a new phrase. Well, if I put all of that stuff in, then what's going to happen is it's going to be so marked up, and that's the reason I didn't do it for the whole thing. It would be so marked up with this, that, and the other that it might interfere with how you read the music. In this music, this is exactly the same song. I only put in exactly what I needed to have for me to read the music. I did not put in anything extra. And so that's what that is, just a plain one, the plain music without any extra. The extras, I wanted to show you this because I thought it was cute. If you can pick that up, that little marking that I made, there's a reason why I put that down here. And I don't know if you can see that clearly or not. Okay, that one of my little girls that I taught flute, she wanted to remember when you tongue and when you slur. So she'd do the symbol. This symbol is a tongue. That's what it's supposed to be. You can see it's like if you could have a mouth here. It sticks out of the mouth. That's a tongue. And there's a little line to separate one part of the tongue from the other. And she used to write that symbol down on every note where you tongue. So there'd be one here, 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 and a little tongue, a little tongue, a little tongue. All of her music had all kinds of tongues on it. And that reminded her that she had the tongue. Well, I thought it was cute. And I never stopped her from doing it because I know what would happen is as soon as she got a little more mature and she developed a little more, she would realize that you really don't have to do that. If you want to tongue a note, there's no demarcation to tongue a note. The note is just there. And you do have to tongue. When you are learning how to play, you learn how to hold the instrument. You learn how to blow into it. Now, this is like a review. And you know that you put your mouth about a third of the way up, and your teeth are on the instrument, the top teeth, and the lower teeth you cover with your lips a little. And then you know that you say ta or tu. You make a T sound, and that tongues the note. Now, I just made that up, and you just tongue that. You just tongue every note. You have to tongue, because if you don't, the music's going to sound horrible. Some people just try to blow. And the notes run into each other, and they separate from each other at the same time, and it just sounds terrible. So you can't do that. What you have to do is learn how to tongue. And the trick of tonguing is when you start tonguing, you don't make a separation between the notes. You hold a note, you tongue a note, and hold it until the next note has to be tongued. And that's not hard to do. Now, if you were making separations, that would be obvious. And I've heard a lot of beginning students do that, and that's absolutely the wrong thing to do because it doesn't make the music sound good at all. So when you play, it has to be smooth, and that's the earmark of somebody who really knows how to play music. You're not terribly aware of the fact that they're tonguing, but you know that the notes are crisp and they're clear, and they held the full value of the note, and they don't separate unless they're supposed to separate. If you have a marking like a little hatch marking, you do make a separation there, but that's intentional. You want to do that. So I'm going to play this one more time, and as we play it, I'd like to have you see this part. See if it's confusing to you, because these are all the markings, extra markings that I normally don't put in. Oh, and by the way, what I also do sometimes is, and I do it for beginning students, is write what the note is. Here's a G, here's a D, here's a G, and here again, I didn't do it all the way down. So I'll play this once again, and you look at it and see if there's too many markings for you. As you play more and more, the markings will get less and less, except for what you really need to have, because music is a language, and you need to learn how to speak that language in musical terms. So let me play it once again. another thing I want to mention about this music is that it's like written in 3 parts. You have the melody, and I'll speed this up because we don't have much time left. Then you have the medium part, which is a little different melody. If I can find it. So that's the medium part. I changed it a little. And then you go back to the original melody, and it's called a reprise. And that reprise, I guess we don't have the music up here, but this is the reprise. And that means you are taking the main melody and you're repeating it again. And a lot of songs do that. So part of the melody, or all of the melody, is repeated again at the end. So you have your main melody, you have what some people call the bridge, which is kind of like in the middle, although it can be like a whole song on its own, so it's more than just a bridge. And then you go back to the original melody and play part of it, but maybe not all of it, or you can play all of it, and then you have your completed song. So we're kind of running out of time, so I'm going to stop it here. We'll continue with this next time. Please join me then.